And she came up to me and said, hey, I'm Pooh Shiesty mama. And I had just said some about that boy. And she said, I ain't like what you said. And you know, Ma, I think, I won't say her husband, but Pooh Shiesty daddy represent another faction of Rap-A-Lot, but it's not Rap-A-Lot. When she said that, me and that white boy took off running from her. Yeah, she scared me because she kind of gangster. And I ain't said nothing about it.
Charleston White just crossed paths with Ty's parents, and these two are known across Memphis as some of the most serious OGs around. The moment they stepped up to him about disrespecting their son,
He took me and said, hey, I'm Pooh Shiesty mama. And I had just said some about that boy. And she said, I ain't like what you said. And you know, Ma, I think, I won't say her husband, but Pooh Shiesty daddy represent another faction of Rap-A-Lot, but it's not Rap-A-Lot. When she said that, me and that white boy took off running from her. Yeah, she scared me because she kind of gangster. And I ain't said nothing about it since.
the whole energy in the room shifted, and Charleston finally realized he wasn't dealing with internet viewers, but real people with real history. He had been talking wild about Ty like the young man didn't come from a bloodline that's been respected in Memphis for decades. When the truth spread about who confronted him, things became way more intense than anything he has ever pushed online, and the proof of what went down has people whispering. Before this scene unfolded, Charleston had been throwing shade at Pooh Shiesty from the moment the man got locked up.
Shiesty, man, I don't know who writing his lyrics, the devil? How that boy think of all that shit? As young as he is, man, how that little nigga think all that shit? How he know about all them guns? How he know how to kill the way he kill?
He was online cracking jokes, speaking reckless, and turning someone else's struggle into content for his live streams. But this time, that loose talk put him face to face with people who don't tolerate anyone playing with their family's name, not online and not in person. This wasn't regular beef or some clout-chasing moment. Charleston had no clue he was about to meet the woman who raised one of Memphis's most respected street artists, and the man who was once considered one of the most influential figures in the city's underworld.
Yeah, but I like that. Well, I ain't bullshit. I like that.
What do you like the—
Man, that's a dangerous motherfucker.
These two did not walk in like worried parents. They moved like people who carry decades of reputation from some of the hardest streets in America. And here's where things got even more tense. This whole situation was bound to blow the moment Charleston started using Pooh Shiesty's incarceration as online entertainment. The disrespect built up, and running into the wrong people at the wrong time made the collision unavoidable. Now let's talk about who Ty's mother really is, because she is nothing like the quiet suburban mom some people imagine. She is a certified force with a life story more gripping than most crime dramas. She grew up in the same harsh streets of South Memphis that produced names like Yo Gotti and Young Dolph, and she earned her respect the hard way. But unlike many women who get swept into their partner's world without knowing what they stepped into, she was already tied to the streets long before she ever crossed paths with mob boss. She knew the code, she understood the danger, and she knew how to stay steady in a place where even a moment of weakness could put you or the people you care about at risk. When she connected with mob boss, it wasn't some sweet romance story. It was two grinders linking up in the middle of chaos, building something out of nothing while the world around them felt like a battlefield. Their relationship survived federal heat, crews trying to move in on their territory, and the pressure of knowing any day could be the one where everything changes. What made their bond stand out was how clearly they saw the bigger picture. They both understood the streets were a stepping stone, not the final destination. When mob boss was facing federal time, she held everything together. She kept the family stable, managed their money, stayed in contact with important people in their circle, and protected their name while he fought his case. That level of responsibility took street intelligence that most people never develop. She had to make choices that carried real weight, decisions that could shift the direction of their lives. She earned the respect she carried in Memphis through years of proving she could stand strong in situations where one wrong move could cost everything. She handled federal pressure, outside threats, and even betrayal within their circle, all while keeping her family steady and their operation running. She wasn't some quiet partner sitting in the background. She was a central piece of the entire structure, someone who understood every moving part. Her impact on Ty was heavy too. While mob boss taught him the business side of the streets, his mother taught him how to survive, how to stay loyal, and how to hold himself together even when life tried to break him down. She also understood the importance of giving him real opportunities, making sure he stayed focused in school while she balanced the chaos of their world. And here's where the story cuts deeper than simple street history. When Charleston White started disrespecting her son and treating his situation like a joke for the internet, he had no idea he was talking about the child of a woman who had already lived through things that would have pushed most people past their limit. This woman had already seen the federal government try to tear her family apart, had watched rivals make attempts on the people she cared about, and not once in her life did she step back from pressure. But now, let's shift to the man who helped shape the entire legacy around Ty's family. Pooh Shiesty's father, Lanry Williams Sr., better known across Memphis as Mob Boss. This man was nothing like the online personalities pretending to be tough. Mob Boss was the type of figure people in the streets spoke about with caution, because his reputation was built through real experience, not internet talk. His operation ran so tight that federal agents had to spend months surveilling different parts of his network just to understand the scale of what he was running. The name Mob Boss wasn't some catchy label for branding. It was a reflection of how deep he was in Memphis's underground economy, earned through years of handling serious business and maintaining respect from the Delta up to the Arkansas line. He used the I-55 like it was his personal distribution lane, moving product with truck drivers who understood how to cross state lines without raising suspicion. He had people in official positions who could warn him about upcoming operations, and he had street veterans who were loyal enough to risk everything for the organization. What set him apart from the average dealer was his mindset. He avoided the traps most people fall into, like letting ego or addiction ruin their focus. While other crews were loud with their lifestyle or reckless with their decisions, Mob Boss approached everything like a strategist. He put money into real estate, turning properties in South Memphis into stash locations and safe meeting spots. He built legitimate businesses that created employment for his crew and helped keep his finances looking clean to outsiders. Most importantly, he understood how to stay out of law enforcement's line of sight while still keeping money flowing. That was the purpose behind starting Mob Ty's Records. It gave him a clean reason to move around, a way to explain large cash amounts, and a path to earn respect without relying on constant conflict. But this is where things turned serious. In 2007, Memphis police had their eyes on one of his operations for over a month. They set up around an apartment on 784 Porter Street, a building that appeared abandoned but was actually a well-organized trap house. The spot was chosen for a reason. Porter Street was an end block where police rarely patrolled, and residents kept to themselves. When officers finally showed up with search warrants, the entire scene felt unreal. As soon as Detective Cottrell Robinson hit the doorway, the apartment exploded into pure chaos. Mob Boss's cousin, Rico Johnson, took off running from apartment 4 into apartment 3, trying to disappear before anyone grabbed him. Glass started shattering as someone bailed out the kitchen window, trying to escape. And then something wild happened. A 75-pound pit bull came charging around the corner, locked in on the officers like it knew exactly what its job was. Detective Robinson ended up firing 3 shots before the dog backed up into the kitchen, where it later died. That dog wasn't just a pet. It was part of the setup, a living alarm system designed for the substance trade. A trained dog like that serves multiple purposes. It keeps robbers away, signals police raids, and if it has been trained the right way, it can even destroy evidence before officers reach the scene. The way that pit bull rushed law enforcement without hesitation showed how seriously it had been conditioned for protection. Once the chaos settled, officers found a fully operating setup inside the apartment. There were 12.5 grams of cocaine, 8 pounds of high-grade marijuana, digital scales on the counter, measuring cups by the stove for cooking crack, a Smith & Wesson resting on the couch, and $10,000 in cash sitting in Mob Boss's pocket. The scene made it clear that this was far from a small-time operation. Now we have to talk about the allegations that shaped Mob Boss's reputation even deeper. Back in 2004, he became tied to one of Memphis's most unsettling homicide cases, involving a 24-year-old radio DJ named Rebecca Glenn. She was strangled inside her apartment by a man named Stanley Andrews. According to the official reports, mob boss ended up charged as an accessory after the fact to first-degree crime. Here's where the story shifts in a darker direction. People in the city whispered that Rebecca had been giving Yo Gotti radio play while refusing to push any music from mob boss or artist connected to his Mob Ties label. In Memphis during that era, radio play controlled everything. It could turn a local rapper into someone who made real income or leave them stuck as a street artist with no reach. Rumors spread that mob boss ordered a hit over the disrespect, though nothing of that nature was proven in court. Still, the accusation alone showed how much influence he carried at the time. What is confirmed is that after Rebecca's passing, mob boss and a woman named Marquita Thomas were caught using the victim's credit cards and helping move her stolen belongings. It showed a cold level of involvement that left the city stunned. Using a past woman's credit cards and selling her things pushed this case into a whole new category of disturbing. The investigation revealed dark connections between Memphis's rising music scene and the criminal world that operated underneath it, and the details uncovered in that apartment made people realize just how dangerous that intersection could get. Stanley Andrews managed to slip past building security and started roaming the hallways, knocking on random doors like he was looking for trouble. When Rebecca opened hers to see what was going on, he pushed his way inside, put his hands around her neck, and strangled her before robbing the apartment. Even his own sister struggled to process what happened. She told Action News 5 that he called her from jail saying Rebecca snapped at him for knocking on her door, and he reacted. But the way he acted afterward told a different story. According to his sister, he didn't sound confused or shaken. He didn't show guilt. He acted like someone who knew exactly what he had done. The investigation exposed something deeper too. Radio DJs held real power in the city. They decided who got airplay, who stayed underground, and who got a chance at real success. That kind of influence made them targets when artists or crews felt disrespected or overlooked. Mob Boss ended up facing accessory charges and a first-degree forgery charge, but he slipped past the worst penalties and walked away with only a year of supervised probation. For most people, that would be a warning, a sign to step back. But Mob Boss lived in a world where the streets pulled harder than any court order. And that was the environment Ty grew up witnessing, surrounded by danger, crime, and players who moved with serious intent. Now, we reach the point where Charleston White crossed the line with these Memphis OGs. His comments weren't just disrespectful. He was openly mocking a young man's struggles and treating another person's downfall like it was entertainment for his live stream. Charleston went on saying that before Pooh went to prison, he was outside causing chaos, shooting up clubs and acting reckless like it was a video game. He claimed Pooh was about to learn discipline now that he was locked up, talking like the system was going to force him to behave. He laughed while saying that the white man was going to teach him a lesson. Then Charleston took it even further. In one of his harshest rants, he said, in quotes, "That white man don't play. And he got that boy on what they call a probated sentence called probation. Get him. They called a PO. Them Poes make them walk a straight line and they gave that boy PTI. He gonna be tight, open like a, we ain't gonna have no problems out of Pooh." He kept pushing the same narrative, almost celebrating the fact that Pooh Shiesty would be under strict supervision when he got out, saying they got that boy on probation. Charleston kept saying that every person in the streets needs a probation officer, calling it the best thing the white man can give a gangster. But what really rubbed people the wrong way was how he laughed while talking about Ty. He said Ty used to be dangerous in the streets, but now he would be harmless, acting like the man had turned soft. He said Ty used to be active in the streets, but now he was sitting online, typing on a keyboard. In quotes, "You used to be bad in the streets. Look at you twittering, in the metaverse world. Y'all used to be in the streets shooting guns. Now look at that little noise be in your ears when you be typing. Sound way better than that gun." For anyone who understands the culture, comments like that cut deep, talking about someone's child like that, especially when that child comes from a family with real history and real weight behind their name, is the type of disrespect that brings consequences. Charleston wasn't just talking. He was mocking a young man's incarceration and treating it like entertainment. He acted like he knew what was best for Ty's life, saying prison would fix him and turn him into a better person. That came off cold and condescending, especially from someone who never lived the world he spends so much time criticizing online. But what really shook everyone was what happened when Ty's parents finally stepped in. They weren't looking to trend or get attention. These were seasoned street veterans who spent decades surviving in some of Memphis's toughest neighborhoods. They had seen things Charleston only talked about on live streams. When they approached him, it wasn't for a show, and it wasn't for social media. It was that real old school, face-to-face conversation where people address things directly. No typing, no ranting, no chasing views. Just grown people speaking on boundaries that were crossed. Charleston figured out fast that he wasn't dealing with online trolls. He was standing in front of people who had survived federal cases, street battles, betrayals, and everything tied to Memphis's underground world. They lived the life he used for content. The whole atmosphere shifted once Charleston understood who he was dealing with. Ty's parents didn't show up to argue about content or algorithms. They came to make it clear that disrespecting their son, making jokes about his incarceration, and treating his situation like a punchline was something they would not allow. They delivered that message directly, without yelling, without performing, just making sure he understood the weight of what he had said. The same man who had been laughing and cracking jokes about Ty's federal case suddenly shifted his whole attitude once he was standing in front of the young man's real family. After that face-to-face moment, Charleston's entire tone changed. The man who had been using Ty's situation for online content started acting apologetic, saying he would never bring up Pooh's name again in anything he posted. That confrontation showed a clear difference between talking tough on the internet and understanding real street dynamics. Charleston made a career out of criticizing street culture and talking down to young black men who grew up in environments he had never experienced. But when he came face to face with people who actually lived that life, who survived things he only talks about for views, all that loud energy faded. The situation revealed how different the online world is compared to real life, where people are not playing around with their family's name. This moment wasn't just about Charleston White running his mouth or Pooh Shiesty's parents defending their son. It touched on something deeper. It was about family respect, loyalty, and the reality that certain lines should never be crossed, no matter how many views or clicks a person gains from doing it. Charleston learned firsthand that the internet might reward disrespect, but the real world does not operate on those same rules. When you disrespect someone who comes from a real street family, your online persona cannot shield you from accountability. Energy comes back, and Charleston found himself face to face with the consequences of what he had been saying. For Ty's parents, this wasn't about drama or clout. It was about protecting their family's name while their son couldn't speak for himself in that moment. In the environment they come from, letting someone talk reckless about your family without responding is seen as weakness, and showing weakness can lead to danger. The confrontation also showed the difference between generations. Mob Boss and his wife come from an older era where people carried themselves under a code. They handled business quietly, with discipline and structure. Respect was earned through behavior, not through talking loud for an audience. Family loyalty mattered more than money, attention, or fame. This whole situation also exposed the darker side of internet culture. People can profit from someone else's pain, turning another person's lowest moment into content for clicks. Charleston was laughing and making money off a young man's incarceration, not thinking about the toll it takes on families who have to live with the reality of it. The real question now is whether Charleston will stay true to the promise he made, or if he will go back to his usual behavior once the tension fades and he thinks nobody is paying attention anymore. But one thing is clear. He now understands that Ty comes from a family that values respect, loyalty, and real consequences. They don't allow disrespect to slide, and they never have. This whole confrontation is a reminder that behind every rapper's rise, there is usually a family that carried real struggles, real losses, and real pressure long before the spotlight showed up. When someone cracks jokes about a man's legal situation or treats his downfall like entertainment, the disrespect doesn't stop at him. It hits everyone connected to him, everyone who stood by him, and everyone who lived through the same battles. So what do you think about Charleston White running into Ty's parents and finally getting checked in person? Do you think that moment humbled him for real, or is he just waiting until things cool down before he starts talking reckless again? Drop your thoughts in the comments and let the conversation cook. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe to the channel, share the video, and see you on the next one. This situation showed how the online world can twist things, but it also showed how the real world still functions on respect. The streets have been talking, and now you know the full story of what went down when Charleston White finally met two Memphis OGs who take their family's name seriously. It was a moment that reminded everyone that no matter how big a platform gets, there are still lines you don't cross and families you don't disrespect.